As a result of winning the Battle of Kosovo, the Ottomans managed to gain parts of Serbia, Albania, Bulgaria, and Greece. There was just one problem though. The Sultan was dead, and the issue of succession had not been decided yet. So they were leaderless, the Balkans had not been fully subjugated, the project in Rumeli was in the balance, and what would happen now would have shockwaves in the Ottoman Empire for the next 300 years. A civil war now would have been a major disaster and also a major threat to the Ottoman concept of Din and Devlet, religion and the state, the two ideas which the Ottomans saw as symbiotic, each one needing the other for them to flourish. There was only one problem though. Both Bayezid and Yaqub wanted to succeed their father and be the Sultan. In the ensuing chaos after the battle, Yaqub was killed. By who and for who is unclear, we don't really know. But one thing that is certain is that from that point in time, a notion started to exist within the minds of Ottoman elites that the life of one person was not as important as the integrity of the state. And this notion would exist, and this killing of the brother when the father dies would actually become a succession culture with the Ottomans, for which they are famous for or infamous for. The only thing that was not a culture yet was how they would dispose of the brothers who would not become the Sultan. But soon they would devise a royal method of execution. So Bayezid was now the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. The Serbians had lost their leader in the battle, Lazar. He was succeeded by his son, who was called Lazarevic. But then something very interesting happened. Lazarevic and Bayezid agreed to become allies. Lazarevic became his vassal. And to further cement this relationship, Lazarevic married his sister to Bayezid. And Bayezid knew that the Battle of Kosovo had all been instigated by the Byzantine emperor inside Constantinople. So he thought if you could get rid of this weak empire with its strong city walls, he would greatly reduce the chance of Europe uniting against him. So he put Constantinople under siege. The Byzantine emperor contacted the Pope. The Pope called for a crusade. The problem was the Serbians now had either been weakened, neutralized or vassalized by Bayezid. So therefore, this battle against the Ottomans would fall to the more northern states of Europe, states like Hungary, and knights from France and Germany, and then the Venetians and the Genoese joined in as well. Bayezid was a bit wary because he knew now he was coming into contact with a coalition of much stronger states. Bayezid was very wary of this strong Catholic coalition that was gathering against him, and he would need all the help that he could get, including the help of God. And that's when he made a dua. He supplicated to God and said, "Oh Allah, if you help me and give me victory against the Crusaders, I promise to build 20 mosques in your name." And with that, he set off to a place called Nicopolis in Rumeli with his Turkish Anatolian cavalry and his Balkan Janissaries and his Serbian Orthodox vassal and brother-in-law Lazarevic. The Catholic Crusaders actually got to Nicopolis first, and they massacred the inhabitants of the town, whether they be Muslim or whether they be Orthodox Christians. They were very confident in their victory because of their huge numbers. So when the battle started, they began with a full-on frontal assault, and they were having huge successes, and it wasn't looking good for the Ottomans until Bayezid released his secret weapon, his brother-in-law Lazarevic, because when he entered the fray of the battle, it completely turned the tide and the Catholic Crusaders were annihilated. The Muslims had won a famous crusade against Catholics with the help of Orthodox Christians. that the victory had been attained and the Balkans had been secured, it was time for Bayezid to come good on his oath, which was to build 20 mosques after the supplication he'd made to God. But there was just one problem. He didn't have enough money. So he approached a Muslim theologian, a Muslim scholar, and asked him, look, I made this oath, but I don't have the money to follow through with it. What should I do? It was at this point where the scholar asked him, what was the exact wording in your dua, in your supplication to God? And that's when Bayezid revealed that he said he would build 20 domed structures for Allah. The scholar said, I've got an idea. Build one mosque, but put 20 domes on it. That should do the job. And for that reason, we have this structure here, Bursa Grand Mosque, known as the Ulu'a Jami, with its 20 domes. If the Battle of Nicopolis took place in Rumeli, i.e. on the Asian side of the empire, and the people who they fought were Europeans, and the capital of the Ottoman Empire was Edirne, which was in the European side as well, then one might ask, why was the mosque commemorating the victory in this battle built in Anatolia, here in Bursa? And one reason for that might be is that Bayezid realized that he had a problem. There was a lot of discontent amongst the Turks of Anatolia directed at the House of Osman, the ruling family of the Ottomans. That was because they felt that the attention of the Ottomans was purely on the Balkans now, as they'd moved the capital there, and the most favoured institution, the military, was the Balkan-based Janissaries. So quite rightly so, they felt very sidelined. Also recently, Bayezid had incorporated some other Turkish beyliks into his empire, and they weren't keen on the centralizing activity and the centralizing policies that he had. So this mosque built here in Anatolia, in Bursa, is an attempt by Bayezid to try and get rid of some of that discontent which the Turks in the area had. The question is, would it work? Or would it remain and come back at a later date and stab him in the back? Once again, Bayezid put Constantinople under siege. The emperor called for help, but this time there was no help coming. Well, no Christian help, because he had a massive stroke of luck. He got some Muslim help. A man known as the Prince of Destruction, a Central Asian nomadic conqueror, styling himself as Genghis Khan 2.0, was making his way west. And that's because the Turkic beyliks in Anatolia, who had not yet come under the rule of the Ottoman Empire but were very wary of Bayezid's expansionist ideas, had contacted him and said, come help us out against this Ottoman ruler. And Timur was a man who was always ready for a fight, loved a fight, he was great in battle, so he gladly obliged and made his way. Bayezid heard, he called off the siege, and he moved east to meet this man in what would become a clash of the titans, and it would go down as the Battle of Ankara, occurring in the year 1402. Bayezid was accompanied into battle by his brother-in-law Lazarevich, the Orthodox Christian, by his Balkan Janissaries, and by the Turkish Anatolian Ghazi warrior cavalry. And when you're fighting against a man like Timur, who is a master tactician in battle, and his troops are battle hardened and have carved out a huge empire, every single thing has to go perfectly for you to win the battle. But unfortunately for Bayezid, things didn't go perfectly. The discontented Anatolian Turkic cavalry Ghazi warriors left the battlefield. Building the Ulu'a Jami, Bursa Grand Mosque in Bursa, had done nothing to appease them. And in the end, it was an easy victory for Timur and his forces. Bayezid got captured in the fighting and was taken to Central Asia. Timur then split the empire amongst the four sons of Bayezid. Each son got a segment in the hope that they would fight each other and weaken the Ottomans greatly. Bayezid the Thunderbolt had been bolted up behind bars, and the Ottoman Empire was on the verge of shattering. In 1396, 6 years earlier, they defeated the Crusaders at Nicopolis, and they were feared in Europe, and they were on the verge of conquering Constantinople. Now they were on the verge of not existing at all.